Okay, hello, hello. Hello, and welcome to this live stream. Yeah, it's Ray James Mope here. Just waiting for a few people to join in the live. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'm trying to share this link. Copy link. Okay, share it. And yeah. Okay, we're good to go. It's a lovely afternoon here. Yeah. Okay, I think now we can start with our presentation for this afternoon. I am delighted and excited on what we'll talk about this afternoon. And this is just a build up to our masterclass that we'll be having on the 13th of this month, which is next week, Saturday. Yeah. Okay, and I don't think we'll stay very long. Just wanted to talk about something really that has been sort of bugging me for some time and wondering why, most talented people, or we have a lot of talented people in the country and as a continent, and yet we find that we are playing small. So some of the questions that I've had is, why is it that the most smartest people tend to shrink in meetings? For example, you have a meeting and then you find people are not able to speak up. And, I've been wondering on a number of traits about people in terms of how do we become the person who we are. Okay, our belief system, how was it formed? How did we come up with that statement of, okay, this is who I am? I, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, and all those things have just been, diving and researching more into identity formation. And I truly believe that identity is everything. That identity, at the end of the day, determines how we show up in life. It determines what kind of opportunities that we see and what kind of opportunities that we don't see. And that's some of the things that I would like to cover in this presentation this afternoon. You have to understand that most of the people are not doing the things that they want to be doing, not because they lack the skills. A majority of people attend a number of seminars. A majority of people, attend a lot of trainings. A majority of people are very educated, and yet they don't, that knowledge that they've gained, it doesn't translate in their day-to-day activities. It doesn't show up in what they do on a daily basis. And the question is, why? Okay, because the question is not about knowledge. It's about identity. And today I'm definitely going to break down exactly why personal development, for example, fails to, people that are really, really invested in personal development, and why, you are constantly consuming and yet that is not reflecting in your day-to-day activities. So I will break that down. And what you have to understand is that the majority of people, they are building on a faulty foundation. A majority of people have had traumatic upbringings, and they have not dealt with their trauma, and as a result, that trauma affects what they see is possible for them and what they think is not possible for them. I'll give an example of, if you are growing up and at one point you raised your hand and maybe answered a question, and that question was wrong, and you became the laughing stock of the class. What happened to you then is that was a traumatic event that happened to you, and it has shaped you in how you see yourself, as whether you'll be able to see opportunities for yourself or not. All right. So just checking. Yeah. So whether you'll be able to see opportunities or not, until you begin to deal with some things that have traumatized you growing up, it is not possible for you to see opportunities as they are coming for you. Okay. All right. Let's continue. But we left off. I was just checking whether my audio is very clear. So now let's go into the presentation. Most personal development programs or trainings focus on what you need to do, meaning on the behavior aspect of what you need to change about yourself. All right. So you hear things like it will teach you how to change behavior while leaving identity unchanged. What we're doing is like we're trying to build a skyscraper on a faulty foundation. What will happen is that even if we build the most beautiful building, but as long as the foundation is not okay, that building will not stand. And that's what most personal development content is focused on. It's based on building this beautiful image of yourself on a faulty foundation. Now, until you rebuild that foundation, that is when you will build a solid identity. You must understand that your identity growing up has been built on a faulty foundation. Now, here is what I mean. For example, so you will attend a program that will say how to improve your confidence. Now, you will learn all the techniques that are needed for you to speak confidently, for you to be able to show up confidently. But if you yourself, you see yourself, what you believe about yourself determines how you are going to act, despite knowing the things that you're going to that you are supposed to be doing. And what that does is that it creates what I call the what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. So you're trying to act in ways that doesn't reflect who you are. So you find that people will set goals, all right? They will set goals in terms of who they want to become, but if they don't change how they see themselves, it's not possible. They're going to default in that. They're going to default to their original how they see themselves. So you will find that, excuse me, you will find that you say, I want to be fit this year, all right? And you start, maybe you enroll into a gym, even 3 times in a row because you're motivated, so you'll be going. But because you don't see yourself as someone who exercises, it's not possible that new trait that you want is going to stick. As a result, you will default to your original state. And that's why a lot of people, they get to have goals, but because of this cognitive dissonance that is happening on a daily basis, they default to their brain defaults to what they know, okay, what they believe. Okay, this is who I am. So you can read as many books as you want, you can attend as many conferences as you want, but if you don't change the self-image in terms of how you see yourself, it's not possible that change is going to stick. Okay, you can learn. A few days ago, I posted something where I said you can learn everything that you want, but as long as your image, your self-image, okay, remains unchanged, it is not possible for you to change. Yes, it will work, or it'll be like a temporary fix. It'll make you feel like, okay, you are always developing yourself. You are this person that is always developing yourself, but yet the things that you know, they don't reflect in your daily life. All right. So what we're saying is that according to research, behavior that conflicts with identity creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain will always pull you back to identity consistent behavior. As a man thinketh, so he is. You will never do anything beyond how you see yourself. And it is very important that you work on this foundation called identity. Another example that I'll give is, I think this is a personal example. I started the personal development journey way when I was very young, when I started attending courses, seminars, reading books, and just exposing myself to this kind of content. And what would happen is that I would get pumped, okay, motivated, set goals, very ambitious goals. And the moment that it came to executing the plan, I shrinked. I defaulted to how I saw myself. I defaulted to old patterns. And what would happen is that I would be frustrated. I'm learning, yet what I'm learning is not translating in what I'm seeing on a personal basis. And a majority of people out there are very frustrated because what they know, this is where they are. It doesn't add up. There's always this cognitive dissonance that is always happening on a single day where a person will say, I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I definitely know I'm not supposed to be here, but they're always defaulting. And the reason is that because they're trying to build new habits on a 40 identity. They say the habits they take up to 21 days, but according to further research, it takes about 90 days for a new habit or a new trait for you to be able to see yourself. For that, when you start something, for that thing to be in your subconscious where you act, even without thinking, it has to take over 90 days. All right. So until you begin to now see yourself as somebody that is capable, if you want to be confident, if you don't see yourself as somebody that produces value, that adds value to society, then it's not possible that you're going to show up confident. It's not possible that you're going to speak up. It's not possible that you're going to present your ideas. So you will be in a room where you have a brilliant idea, and because you're so scared, because you don't see yourself as somebody that can just stand up and speak. And yes, there's an aspect of fear, but fear is good. All right, because fear protects you from harm. And when you want to raise your hand to speak up and everything in you, you call the ancestors, they come for you. What is happening there is that your brain is just trying to convince you that you are about to enter into a dangerous territory. So don't step into this. Because what is happening there is that you're about to expose yourself. Okay, so because when you raise your hand, whatever that you're going to speak is going to expose yourself. And normally what happens is this. As people, we tend to judge others very easily when they say something. So you find that somebody has a suggestion, or then maybe they didn't understand a question or what the presenter was saying. Then they ask a question. Then you tend to wonder. Everybody say, so you mean you didn't understand? How can you ask something like that? And because we are in those state where we dismiss others, we dismiss other people's opinion, other people's perspective, because we feel this thing is simple and you're supposed to understand it. And because of that, unconsciously, we don't want the same experience. Okay, so we don't want to speak up because our brain says, remember that person spoke and the whole crowd went after the person. So do not speak up. Do not do anything. And many people listen to their fears and they don't act. Many people listen to their fears and they fall into the always planning, always doing, always looking for another course and hoping that maybe the next course that I do is going to change everything for me. Maybe the next program that I do is what it's a secret ingredient that I'm waiting for. And what happens is that the way that the industry is positioned, it is positioned to capture your interest. All right. So I will set up an event and I will say how to improve your confidence, and a number of people will show up. And majority of those people that will show up, only maybe 5% will be able to put the things that they will learn into practice. And the 95 will again look for another course that they will go to. And you find that we have people who are content consumers, a number of them, who become addicted to learning. Or because the identity itself, your identity is running your program, because it's like your identity is your operating system. And that operating system is running your everyday decisions, what you think is possible for you. Can you send that email? Can you talk to the boss about your idea? And that operating system is always running your life. And until we begin to change, to uninstall the operating system and reinstall a different one, we will keep seeing opportunities passing us. And what is more painful And I've experienced this a number of times. What is painful is that you had an idea, and because you were scared, because you hesitated, another person went and did the very thing that you were thinking about. And you go like, I thought about that idea. I wanted to do that. And what happens? You end up in regret. And sadly, that is what's happening for a majority of people. They think of a brilliant idea. They plan on how to execute that idea. They get cold feet. They delay. They hesitate. They give up. What is the result? It's regret. And that cycle continues. But if you just reprogrammed your mind and saw yourself, I can do this despite the fear. You have an idea, you plan for the idea, and you know that, okay, you've prepared and you know that you're ready. The moment that you want to execute, you get cold feet, you get scared. Instead of delaying or giving up, do it while it's scared. Do it while it's scared. Share the idea and move on. And what you will notice is what is going to happen is that will begin to open up more opportunities for you. That is going to begin to build more confidence. So confidence is built as a result of you coming up with something and doing it. And the very fact that you have evidence, and the very fact that your brain gets to have evidence that you pushed yourself and you did something, so your brain will be like, okay, now it's safe to go out and do this. You get scared for a few minutes, but eventually when you get into the groove, it's done. So your self-concept, all right, the way that you see yourself will determine what you attempt. It will determine how you attempt it, all right? It will determine a lot of things that you are doing. Not only that, whether you persist when it gets difficult, how others perceive and respond to you. So this is all your operating system interpreting all these things. What you do with success when it comes to, when that success comes, how do you deal with it? I want to give you this example of two people with the same opportunity, right? So a person sees an opportunity. For example, a person sees themselves as lucky to be considered. And then person B considers themselves, let me say John. Okay, we have John and James. All right, James sees themselves as lucky to be considered. And John sees themselves as exactly what they need. So these people have the same qualification, but different outcomes. Person A, all right, they're grateful. Acceptance plays itself. And then B is strategic negotiation, commands respect. Now, what happens is there's this compounding effect that is happening. Your self-concept doesn't just affect one decision, it compounds over years. And then you get to have evidence. All right, I'm not promotional material. So if you think you're not promotional material, if you think you're not leadership material, you will not go after leadership opportunities. No matter how much you try, you will not go after leadership opportunities. As a result, you stay in the same position for years and years. And what happens when you stay in that position for years and years, it's going to prove, you're proving to yourself, you're having that evidence that, okay, this doesn't happen because I'm not leadership material. I don't get to have opportunities to lead because I'm not leadership material. Now, if you see yourself as somebody who creates value, all right, and what is going to happen here is that you're going to seek bigger opportunities. You will seek bigger challenges. all right, you will develop leadership skills and you're going to advance naturally. And what happens is that when people begin to advance naturally, others will begin to say, no, they are lucky, they are connected. But it is all about intentionality. Everything is about intentionality as a result of how you see yourself. And there's this statement or concept or theory that fake it until you make it. I used to believe that. I used to believe that you have to fake it to make it. That okay. Until I really scrutinized it and tried to evaluate that statement in its entirety. And maybe it has some truth in it, but it is not entirely true. And yeah, I think it always backfires because of cognitive dissonance. When your actions don't match your identity, your brain creates stress and seeks to restore consistency. And then what happens is that your brain will revert to familiar behavior. So why the fake it do you make it fails is that for most people, it forces people to perform, okay, rather than become. It creates exhaustion with constant acting because it's like a lie. When you lie today, you have to keep finding other lies to cover up the first lie. And it gets exhausting the more that you do it. And then what happens is that others can sense, can feel it. And then at the end of the day, you begin to feel like an imposter. Here's an example. Let's say you're an entrepreneur and you hear that, okay, as an entrepreneur, you need to network. For you to find opportunities, you have to network. So you start forcing yourself to network or to confidently network at events while internally believing I don't belong here. When you're in a space, you meet great entrepreneurs, like people that are doing amazing stuff. And then you want to connect with those people. But the moment that you're in that room and you start thinking, I don't think I belong, the chances that you're going to really connect authentically with the people there is very minimal. Because you have convinced yourself as you're in that room and you've convinced that you are authentic. And then what happens is it reinforces I'm bad at networking identity. And this is what happens in every other thing. We find an opportunity. Then because we don't see ourselves as somebody that can carry out that opportunity, we default to our behavior settings. The more that we default, the more that we create more evidence to ourselves that this doesn't work. So identity-first approach, I believe, is the way to go. Begin to see yourself. There is a scripture in Proverbs, in Hebrews 11 verses 1 on faith. The faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So now, this is not about faking it until you make it. This is about seeing yourself, even without evidence. So you are acting in accordance with who you want to become. Your actions and everything that you do what determines those things is the person that you are becoming. So let's say 7 years ago, said I wanted to be a speaker. All right. And that goal started directing what I began doing, the kind of courses that I was engaging in. So I wasn't just going for any course, for any program, because I needed to learn as many things as possible. No, like everything was intentionally designed to create that speaker that I wanted and would want to become later on. So, and the more that I was acting, I was providing more evidence and I was getting speaking opportunities. I would speak to anyone that would listen. And eventually, it became natural. I could be called to go and speak, and I would speak confidently. I would not think I don't belong here. I'm an imposter. In the beginning, yes, I did feel like that. But the more that I was becoming, the more that I was building confidence, the more that I was building evidence that I can do this, that I'm capable. And now I pursue things that are just that, excuse me, that when I look at them, I'm like, oh, take it easy. So I believe we've talked on a number of things up to this time. Now, how do you identify the stories you've accepted as truth? This is why we do a short identity audit. Every limitation you experience traces back to a story you've accepted as truth about who you are. Every time you think you cannot do something, there was a point. It can always be traced to a certain point. And like I mentioned, we have been traumatized. We have had a number of experiences that have traumatized us so much that because of those traumas, undealt traumas, we act in ways that doesn't align with our ambitions of who we want to become. So when you begin to feel like I'm not the type of person who, or I'm the type of person who always, I'm the type of person who never, I'm not leadership material. And if you don't have evidence of anyone from your background breaking barriers or boundaries, the possibility of you believing that you can is very, very low. That is why exposure sets you apart because you begin to see people that are doing things. You're like, oh, so this person can actually do this. And that builds you up. So stories like I'm not naturally confident in presentation, I'm not good with money, I overspend. Like those are identity. They have stories where they're coming from. For me, it was spending. I realized growing up, we had, I would say, I could see other people, all right, who had money. They could spend their money the way that they wanted, and I was like, just wait, I'm going to have money one day as well. Then when I do, I can eat everything that I want. And not knowing that actually that behavior of wanting to buy anything and everything that I see, wanting good things, was as a result of I never had good things growing up. So to compensate, I overspent, I overspend on food, gadgets, and all those things. Trauma. A number of people have been traumatized, and we need to make it normal to seek help. Because a lot of people don't know that they have had a lot of traumatic experiences in their lives that shape how they show up at work, how they raise their children, how they treat their friends, and even how they treat themselves. So this is what I want you to do for each story. I want you to ask, is this actually true? Or is this just familiar? Because most of the stories were formed years, but they're still running your adult decisions. That's why self-awareness is really very important, extremely important. So in closing, you can consume endless content, attend all the conferences that you want, read books, spend money on your personal development. But until you address who you believe you are at the core, you will keep sabotaging your own success. And a lot of people are sabotaging their successes. I didn't know until a few months ago that you can actually be scared of success. It shocked me that how is it possible that I can be scared of success? You mean I'm afraid of success? Yes. So as a result, you are sabotaging your own growth because you're scared of your success. You are scared of what success would mean for you. You know that if I'm going to position myself in a leadership role, there is more that is needed, more that is demanded. I will be exposed if I have not prepared enough. And the uncertainty of success makes other people remain where they are. So the uncomfortable truth of the matter is that promotion, that if you do not get it, your identity didn't support it. That idea that you didn't start, your identity said, not for me. And the majority of people think, no, I don't have money, I don't have resources. No, it's just that your identity did not support it. A great majority of people have gone to do incredible things even without money. I like what Domisani says. I attended I attended the entrepreneurship class that he had back in 2022. And there are principles that he shared that I still run with even today. He introduced me to a concept called intellectual capital. That money is important, but it is not the most important. Intellectual capital is the most important asset that you can have as a human being. Now, if you keep saying that money is what is going to get you out of that problem, then you will be in that problem for a very long time. Because money is a medium. Money is exchanged for value. So that's why I wonder these days when people say we're looking for money. Because what do you mean by you're looking for money? Because money is exchanged for value. So if you want money, produce value, then that value will translate into money. So instead of chasing money, chase value. Dr. Miles Monroe once said, do not seek to become a person of success, success. Seek to become a person of value. Because once you create value, success or resources or money are definitely going to come. If you come up with a product, if you come up with an idea, and you present it in a most valuable way, resources will definitely come. So that opportunity that you declined, your identity whispered, you don't belong there. Until you upgrade your identity first, everything else follows naturally. You don't have to remember to be confident all right, confident becomes who you are. And this is the beauty about when you become, you don't have to overthink things. You just go and act, and people wonder, say, how can this person just say things like that? I had a friend in college that would, some degree challenge lecturers, and that would be puzzled. How can this person just challenge a lecturer just like that? It is because when you are confident, you don't overthink things. You just do. And for many people, it puzzles them because they're like, how can this person do this? So, September 13th, we're going deeper into this work. We're going to identify specific identity programs and give you the framework to safely upgrade them to new behaviors that stick naturally. So I will see you again probably next week for another live. We'll have maybe 2 of these before we actually have our masterclass. But if you get anything from today's presentation, is that everything that you are going to become or be is driven from your identity, your self-perception. Religion, anything is built on the aspect of how you see yourself. Politics, everything is about identity. People of a certain party behave this way, people of this party behave this way. It's all identity. In my family, we don't do that. In our culture, that's not allowed. That is all identity. Everything that we do flows from our identity. So I wish you nothing but the very best. This has been insightful. Personally, for me, it has been a great experience. And this is my first live stream of this kind, and we're going to get better as we go on. So have a lovely afternoon and see you next time. I'm Chibuye James. Let's connect. Comment in the comment section identity if you are ready to stop learning your way up and start creating it from inside out. Good evening.